In this video, we look at an overview of signaling in plants. Plants receive and respond appropriately to a wide variety of environmental stimuli. These stimuli include light, gravity, pressure, or wounds. They may also include controversial stimuli such as smell and taste, since there's currently a debate over whether plants have the ability to detect smells and tastes in their surroundings. Just like animals, plants also gather, process, and respond to information in a series of 3 steps. A receptor cell receives an external signal, after which the receptor cell sends a signal to cells in another part of the plant, and then responder cells receive the signal, which results in a change in the plant's activity in response to that particular signal. This figure shows the steps in information processing in plants. When a plant, for example this seedling, receives an external stimulus, the stimulus gets converted into an internal signal, which is then passed on to cells in another part of the plant. When the signal reaches responder cells within the plant, these cells can then launch response to the signal. In response to environmental signals, receptor proteins change shape, which causes the information to change form. The change in shape may be caused by any one of the following: wavelength of light, pressure, or binding to a molecule. This change of shape in receptor proteins results in an intracellular signal that is transduced to the inside of the cell. This process of signal transduction is similar to the one that occurs in animals. Once the information has been transduced to an intracellular form, it travels down a signal transduction pathway, which then elicits a response to the incoming signal. There are 2 basic types of signal transduction pathways. The first type includes phosphorylation cascades, in which a change in the shape of the receptor protein leads to the transfer of a phosphate group from ATP to the receptor. Another type includes second messengers such as calcium ions or hormones, which are released and carry information to the receptor cell. So during signal transduction in plant cells, a signal arrives at the cell surface where receptor proteins reside. The signal triggers the receptor protein to change shape, and this in turn leads to the phosphorylation of the receptor protein. This phosphorylation then triggers a phosphorylation cascade where one protein brings about the phosphorylation of the next protein in the pathway, ultimately leading to a final phosphorylated protein that either travels to the nucleus to activate or repress transcription of target genes, or regulate the flow of ions through the cell membrane, or activate or repress the process of translation, thus regulating protein synthesis inside the cell. A second alternative pathway involves the phosphorylation of a protein that binds and activates calcium ion channels on vacuoles that are a storehouse of calcium ions inside plant cells. This leads to the release of calcium ions into the cytoplasm of the cell, which can then lead to any one of the 3 responses to the signal that we talked about. How are cell-to-cell signals transmitted? Because plants perceive a wide variety of stimuli, they have a wide array of hormones to generate different responses to these stimuli. Plant cells routinely receive information from several different hormones at the same time, so it is common for different types of hormones to interact with each other and modulate the cell's response to incoming signals. Hormones can only elicit a response if a cell has an appropriate receptor that can bind the hormone. Hormones are tiny molecules in tiny concentrations. So you don't need a whole lot of hormones to trigger a response because signal from the hormone is amplified during signal transduction. The receptor that receives the signal in the form of a hormone changes shape in response to the stimulus. Hormone binding can have two results. One, it can lead to the activation of membrane transport proteins that produces a change in the membrane's electrical potential or a change in the pH of the cell wall. Another result involves changes in gene expression that result in new suits of proteins or RNAs in the cell. When cells respond to a hormone, the change in their activity helps the plant cope with the environmental change sensed by the receptor cell. This brings us to the end of an overview of signaling in plants. After going through this information, I'd like you to be able to respond to the questions listed on this slide. Thank you.